Alex had never thought his college life would start like this. When he applied for the interstellar exchange program, he imagined classes filled with new ideas, libraries full of strange books, and maybe even a chance to make friends from other worlds. But he never expected to share his room with someone who wasn't human at all. Her name was Lyra. She arrived 2 days after Alex had settled in. He still remembered the moment she entered the room. She was slender, almost fragile in appearance, but her skin shimmered faintly like moonlight on water. Her large eyes seemed too deep, as if galaxies floated in them. She moved with careful grace, carrying only a small case, as if she had left everything else behind light years away. Alex had met foreign students before, but nothing about Lyra felt ordinary. She was polite, soft-spoken, and very careful with her words. She always tilted her head slightly when listening, as if catching every tone and pause. Alex found himself both curious and cautious. Sharing a room with someone so different felt like stepping into a story he had never expected to live. The first day passed with quiet introductions. Lyra unpacked neatly, placing a few strange objects on her desk, shards of crystal that glowed faintly, a small woven cloth with patterns Alex couldn't recognize, and a small silver pendant shaped like a crescent. She explained that it reminded her of home. Alex didn't ask too many questions. He didn't want to seem rude. By nightfall, the room felt smaller. Alex stretched on his bed, scrolling through his tablet, while Lyra quietly sat on hers, folding the blanket as if preparing for a ritual. The silence was not uncomfortable, but it was heavy, filled with the awareness that two strangers were about to spend their first night only a few steps apart. Just as Alex turned off his lamp, ready to sleep, Lyra's voice came through the dark, calm, gentle but strangely firm. "On my planet, sharing a bed is normal." Alex froze, his head lifting off the pillow. What?" he whispered, thinking maybe he had misunderstood her accent. Lyra turned her glowing eyes toward him. She was serious. "It is normal. We do not sleep alone. We share warmth. We share safety. It is how we build trust." Alex sat up, his heart racing a little. Was she joking? No, her face held no trace of humor. She seemed confused by his reaction, as though she couldn't understand why he was surprised. "You mean, you want to sleep in the same bed?" Alex asked, his voice breaking into a nervous laugh. "Yes," Lyra said simply, as though it was the most natural thing in the world. The room went quiet again, but this time it was filled with Alex's racing thoughts. In his culture, sharing a bed was intimate, private, something for family, close partners, or relationships. You didn't just climb into bed with a roommate, but to her it seemed like ordinary courtesy, a tradition from home. Alex scratched the back of his neck. I don't think humans do that. At least not here." Her expression changed, her eyes dimming slightly as if a cloud had crossed them. She nodded slowly, pulling her blanket tighter around herself. "I see," she said softly. "I did not wish to disturb you." For a moment, Alex thought the conversation was over, but then he noticed the way her shoulders curled inward, how small she looked as she lay down on her own bed. There was something in that posture, a quiet loneliness, a longing she couldn't hide. Alex turned on his side, staring at the ceiling, but sleep didn't come easily. He kept thinking about what she had said. On her planet, people slept together for comfort. Maybe it wasn't strange to her. Maybe it was home. And now, here she was, light years away from everything familiar, trying to sleep in silence that must have felt heavy as stone. It was then that Alex realized this wasn't just about sharing a bed. It was about connection, about being far from home and not wanting to feel alone in the dark. He didn't move that night, didn't say anything more, but deep inside something had shifted. He understood now that Lyra wasn't just an alien roommate. She was a person carrying the weight of distance, loneliness, and memories of a world where no one ever slept alone. And as Alex finally drifted into uneasy sleep, one thought stayed with him. What does it feel like to need someone just to rest in peace? The next morning, Alex woke to the sound of soft humming. It wasn't human music, not even close. The tune rose and fell in patterns that reminded him of waves against a shore, gentle but full of longing. He blinked awake and saw Lyra standing by the window, her hands resting on the glass as sunlight touched her silver skin. She stopped humming when she noticed he was awake. "Did I disturb you?" she asked quickly, her voice careful. "No," Alex said, rubbing his eyes. "It was nice, actually." She gave a faint smile, but it faded quickly, as if she wasn't sure if she had done something wrong. Alex sat up, remembering the strange words she had said the night before. On my planet, sharing a bed is normal. He hadn't stopped thinking about it. At breakfast, curiosity finally got the better of him. Hey, Lyra, he began, trying to sound casual. That thing you said yesterday about sleeping. Is that really normal? For everyone? Lyra's eyes lit up, glad he was asking. She nodded eagerly. Yes, on my world, from childhood to adulthood, no one sleeps alone. Families, friends, even travelers share space. It is comfort. We feel each other's breathing. We feel safe. To sleep apart is to be cut off, Alex frowned. But here it's kind of the opposite. People value privacy. If two people share a bed, it usually means they're close in a special way. Lyra tilted her head, confused. Special way? He hesitated. Like family. Or lovers. Her brows furrowed slightly. So friendship does not allow it? Companionship does not allow it. Alex shrugged awkwardly. Not usually. People might think it's strange. Or they might misunderstand. She grew quiet. Her gaze dropped to the table and she played with the edge of her sleeve. I did not know. I thought perhaps you would understand. The words pierced Alex more than he expected. There was no anger in her tone, only disappointment. He realized she wasn't asking out of boldness or carelessness. She was asking because she was lonely. All day that thought haunted him. In class, while his professor lectured about interspecies communication, he caught himself glancing at Lyra. She sat with perfect posture, taking notes in neat, precise strokes. But her expression was distant. When students laughed together in groups, she stayed silent. When others joked, she tilted her head as if trying to decode sounds that weren't meant for her. That evening, as they returned to their dorm, Alex felt the air heavy with words unspoken. He wanted to ask her more, but he didn't know how. Finally, as he changed into his nightclothes, he noticed how carefully she prepared her bed again, folding the blanket tight, arranging the pillow exactly, like a ritual. But when she lay down, she looked small against the wide mattress, her back turned away. Alex swallowed hard. He couldn't ignore it anymore. Lyra? She shifted slightly but didn't look at him. Yes? He hesitated, then said quietly, When you said sharing a bed is normal, it made me think. Maybe humans don't do that, but I can see why it matters to you. She turned her head just enough for him to see her glowing eyes. They shimmered with surprise and a hint of hope. You mean, you understand? Not completely, Alex admitted. But I get that it makes you feel at home. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I could try, just so you don't feel so alone here. For a long moment, silence hung between them. Then slowly a fragile smile spread across her face, a smile that seemed to chase away the distance in her eyes. You would do this? She whispered, as though she could hardly believe it. Alex nodded, his heart pounding for reasons he couldn't quite explain. Just as friends. Nothing more. But if it helps you sleep, then, yeah. Lyra's voice trembled when she answered. It would mean more than you know. That night, though, they still slept in their own beds. The air between them felt lighter. Alex could feel her relief in the way she breathed easier, in the way she no longer curled into herself so tightly. He didn't touch her, didn't move closer yet. But deep inside, Alex knew something had changed, and as he closed his eyes, he thought, maybe understanding isn't about agreeing with everything. Maybe it's just about caring enough to try. The promise Alex made that night lingered in the air like an invisible thread tying them together. It wasn't something spoken of again during the day, but it was there, waiting, shaping the silence between them. Lyra seemed lighter the next morning. For the first time since she had arrived, she hummed while brushing her long silver hair. The sound reminded Alex of wind passing through glass chimes. He didn't mention the conversation they had before bed, but he noticed her glances, quick, careful, almost shy, as if she was waiting to see if he had changed his mind. Classes dragged on that day and Alex couldn't focus. He kept thinking about what it must feel like to live in a world where comfort came from closeness, then be forced into a place where that closeness was seen as strange. He wondered if he could survive something like that. Probably not. That evening, he decided to take a step. After they both finished their assignments, Alex cleared his throat and said, So, about last night? Lyra turned quickly, her eyes glowing faintly. She didn't speak, but the hope on her face said everything. I was thinking, Alex continued, his voice a little uncertain. Maybe tonight we can try, just to see if it helps you. No big deal. For a second, she just stared, her lips slightly parted. Then she whispered, You mean it? Yeah, Alex said, scratching the back of his neck. As friends. Just friends. I don't want you to feel alone. Her expression softened in a way Alex hadn't seen before. Relief and gratitude mixed with something else, something quieter, deeper. She nodded, her voice trembling. Thank you. You do not know what this means. When the lights went out, Alex lay stiffly on his bed, listening to his own heartbeat. He half expected her to stay where she was, but after a pause, he heard the soft sound of her feet against the floor. She approached carefully, like a child afraid to wake a parent. The mattress dipped as she settled beside him, keeping some space between them. Her breathing was steady but cautious, as though she was afraid one wrong move would send him away. Alex lay frozen at first. His mind raced with thoughts. What if someone found out? What if it was too weird? What if he couldn't sleep at all? But slowly, the warmth of her presence seeped into him. It was strange, yes, but not uncomfortable. In fact, it was calming. Minutes passed. Lyra shifted closer, not touching, but near enough that he could feel the faint heat from her skin. Her breathing grew slower, softer until it matched a steady rhythm. Alex's own body relaxed without him realizing it. His shoulders loosened, his restless mind quieted. For the first time in weeks, he didn't toss and turn. Sleep came quickly, as though her calm had reached into him and stilled the storm. When morning light filled the room, Alex woke to find Lyra already awake. She lay still, watching him with wide eyes that glistened softly. Embarrassed, he sat up quickly, running a hand through his hair. Good morning, Lyra smiled faintly. Good morning, she whispered. Her voice carried warmth. Did you sleep well? Alex blinked, realizing he had. Better than he had in months. Yeah, I did, he admitted, almost surprised. Her expression brightened, the kind of smile that seemed to chase away shadows. Then it worked, she said softly. You see? On my world, no one carries the weight of night alone. Alex didn't know how to answer. He only knew that something inside him had shifted again. It wasn't just about helping her anymore. He had felt it too, that strange comfort, that quiet peace. Later that day, as they walked to class, Alex caught himself glancing at her differently. She still seemed alien, still shimmered in ways that set her apart from everyone else. But now she also seemed familiar, as if a piece of her world had reached across the stars to touch his own. That night, when the lights went out again, there was no hesitation. She joined him without a word, and this time Alex welcomed her presence. And as they drifted toward sleep, he realized something. Sometimes, understanding doesn't come from books or lectures. Sometimes it comes from sharing silence with someone who just needs to know they aren't alone. The next few days passed with a quiet rhythm that felt new, yet strangely natural. Alex and Lyra still attended their classes, studied at their desks, and exchanged small conversations about assignments or meals. On the surface, life looked ordinary, but every night when the lights dimmed and silence filled the room, something different happened. They shared a bed. At first, Alex was nervous each time. He told himself over and over that it was only for her comfort, nothing more. He lay stiffly, giving her space, unsure if his racing heart would let him sleep at all, but every time the warmth of her presence calmed him. Her breathing slowed, steady and soft, like waves brushing ashore. Slowly, his body began to relax and sleep came easier than it ever had before. For Lyra, it was more than just comfort. She had not realized how heavy the loneliness was until it began to lift. Back on her planet, no one ever slept alone. The thought of silence in the dark had always seemed unnatural, even frightening. Here on Earth, she had tried to be strong, curling up on her cold bed, telling herself she could endure. But she couldn't, the emptiness was too sharp. Now, lying beside Alex, she felt as though the shadows no longer reached her. One evening, after another long day of classes, they settled into bed earlier than usual. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the heater. Alex lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, while Lyra rested on her side, her hair spilling across the pillow like liquid silver. Do you miss home? Alex asked suddenly, his voice low. Lyra hesitated. Her glowing eyes softened. Every day, she admitted. I miss the voices, the touch of hands, The closeness. Here, everything feels separate. Alex turned to face her. I guess humans are used to being separate. Sometimes too much. She studied him for a moment. But you are not like that, she whispered. You try to understand. The words warmed Alex more than he expected. He shrugged awkwardly. I just don't want you to feel alone. Her expression softened further, and a silence filled the space between them. Not heavy this time, but peaceful. They didn't speak again, but slowly, without realizing, their breathing fell into the same rhythm. That night, Alex dreamed. He rarely remembered his dreams, but this one stayed with him even after he woke. In the dream, he was walking across a strange silver plain under a sky full of stars. Beside him, Lyra walked calmly, her steps light, her face glowing with quiet peace. He felt safe there, safe in a way he hadn't felt since childhood. When he woke, morning light spilled through the curtains. Lyra was already awake, watching the sunrise with wide, thoughtful eyes. She turned to him, her expression filled with something unspoken. Did you dream? She asked gently. Yeah, Alex admitted. It was nice, different. She smiled faintly. That is what happens when we sleep close. Our minds rest easier. Sometimes they even touch. Alex blinked, unsure if she was speaking metaphorically or literally. He wanted to ask, but the look on her face told him it didn't matter. What mattered was the feeling that still lingered, the peace of being understood without words. From then on, their routine became steady. They studied, ate, and lived their lives by day, but every night when the world quieted, they shared the small space of a single bed. It was no longer awkward. It became natural, like breathing. But with that closeness came something Alex didn't expect. He began to notice small details. The way her eyes shimmered when she laughed softly at one of his clumsy jokes. The way her hand sometimes brushed his arm in sleep, light as a feather but enough to make his heart skip. He told himself not to think too much about it. This was about comfort, not anything else, and yet, when he saw how peaceful she looked each morning, when he felt the calm she brought to his restless mind, he couldn't deny it anymore. He needed this as much as she did. That night, as they lay in the dark once more, Alex turned slightly toward her. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. For the first time, she shifted closer too until their shoulders touched. It was a small touch, almost nothing. But for both of them, it was everything. And in that moment, Alex realized something simple, something powerful. Sometimes, the smallest closeness could heal the deepest loneliness. The habit of sharing a bed became part of their lives, something neither of them questioned anymore. By day, they still lived like ordinary students, attending lectures, carrying books, eating in the cafeteria. But at night, when the lights dimmed and the world outside grew quiet, the two of them would lie side by side, whispering softly until sleep claimed them. Those whispers became their secret world. In the dark, Lyra's voice sounded softer, more vulnerable, like the weight of daylight had finally slipped from her shoulders. She would talk about her home, the mountains that glowed under twin moons, the great gathering halls where her people sang together before resting, the gentle hands of her mother tucking her into the circle of family at night. Alex would listen in silence, painting pictures in his mind of a world both alien and strangely comforting. One night, after a long silence, Lyra whispered, "Do humans ever feel they do not belong? That no matter what they do, they are always outside?" Alex shifted, surprised by the question. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I think a lot of us feel that way. Even on our own planet, sometimes you can be in a room full of people and still feel alone." Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "That is how I feel every day. In class, in the halls, even walking through the streets. They look at me as if I am a fragile thing, or as if I am not truly there. They smile politely, but they do not see me." Alex felt his chest tighten. He thought of the way other students sometimes stared at her, whispering behind their hands, too curious or too cautious to treat her like anyone else. He hated that she noticed it too. "You're not fragile," he said firmly. "You're stronger than most of us. You came here, didn't you? Across light years, away from your family, away from everything you know. That takes courage." Lyra's lips trembled slightly, but she smiled. "You say this as if it is simple, but courage is only the mask we wear when we are afraid." Alex chuckled softly. "Then you wear it better than anyone I know." Her laughter joined his, quiet and musical. Then she grew serious again. "When I lie here beside you, I do not feel so far from home. For a little while, I can pretend I belong." Those words struck deeper than Alex expected. He stared at the ceiling, feeling a strange ache in his chest. He had thought he was helping her, offering comfort because she needed it. But now he realized it wasn't one-sided. He needed her too. He needed those soft whispers in the dark, the steady rhythm of her breathing, the warmth that pushed back the cold silence. Another night, when Alex couldn't sleep, he turned toward her. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course," Lyra said, shifting slightly closer so she could hear him better. "I've always been kind of restless," he admitted. "Even back home, even before college. I'd lie awake at night staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the things I couldn't change. I thought maybe coming here would fix it. New place, new people. But it didn't, not until—" He stopped, embarrassed. "Not until?" she prompted softly. "Not until you started sleeping beside me," Alex said, his voice barely above a whisper. "For some reason I sleep better now. Like my head finally shuts up." For a moment there was silence. Then Lyra reached out, her hand brushing his lightly. It wasn't a grab, just the gentlest touch, as though testing if it was allowed. "I am glad," she whispered. "Perhaps I am not so alone in this feeling." They left their hands like that, barely touching, but it was enough. The warmth passed between them like a promise. As the nights went on, their whispers grew braver. They talked about fears, about hopes, about things neither dared share in daylight. Alex confessed he sometimes felt ordinary, invisible among others. Lyra confessed she feared she would never truly belong here, that she might always be seen as different. But together they found comfort in the dark, and each night as they drifted to sleep, Alex thought the same thought. Maybe belonging isn't about where you are. Maybe it's about who lies beside you when the world feels too big to face alone. Rumors have a way of spreading faster than truth. At first it was only small whispers Alex thought he imagined, a few curious glances in the cafeteria, a couple of classmates snickering behind their hands when he and Lyra walked into the lecture hall together. But soon the whispers grew louder. "Did you hear? The human is sharing a bed with the alien. They say it's every night. Strange, isn't it? What do you think they're doing?" The words followed Alex down the hallways like shadows. He tried to ignore them, but he could see the way people looked at Lyra, their stares sharper, their laughter quieter whenever she passed. It made his stomach twist. Lyra noticed too, of course. She didn't say anything at first, but Alex saw the way her shoulders hunched lower, the way her glowing eyes dimmed when students laughed a little too loudly behind her. She walked beside him in silence, her steps careful, her smile faint and forced. One evening, after another long day of stares and whispers, Alex finally snapped. As soon as they entered the dorm room, he dropped his bag onto the floor and muttered, "Maybe we should stop." Lyra froze where she stood. Slowly she turned to him, her expression unreadable. "Stop what?" "Sharing the bed," Alex said quickly, not daring to meet her eyes. It's causing problems. People are talking. They don't understand." For a long moment she didn't respond. The silence stretched heavy between them, heavier than any night before. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, trembling just slightly. "I see, I did not think it would matter so much to others." Alex rubbed his face with his hands. "It shouldn't matter, but it does. I don't want you to get hurt because of me." Her lips parted as if she wanted to argue, but then she closed them again. Instead, she nodded quickly, her face composed in that calm way she always used when hiding her feelings. "If that is what you wish, I will respect it." That night, for the first time in weeks, they slept apart. Alex lay on his own bed, staring at the ceiling, his chest heavy with guilt. The room felt colder, emptier, as if the air itself had grown thinner. He turned over again and again, but rest refused to come. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined her lying just a few feet away, curled tightly on her bed like she had been on the very first night. And then, through the silence, he heard it. Soft, muffled sobs. Alex sat up immediately, his throat tightening. He couldn't see her face, but he knew. She was crying quietly, trying not to let him hear. He wanted to move, to cross the room, to say something, but shame kept him frozen. After all, wasn't he the one who told her to stop? The hours dragged on. Sleep never came. Alex lay in the dark, listening to her muffled cries until they faded into exhausted silence. The next morning, Lyra behaved as if nothing had happened. She greeted him politely, kept her face calm, and moved through her routine with perfect control. But Alex could see the difference. Her eyes no longer shone the way they had. Her smile no longer reached her cheeks. She had built a wall around herself, and it was his fault. All day guilt ate at him. Every glance from other students, every whisper in the halls, every laugh behind his back felt smaller now, weaker compared to the image of Lyra silently crying in the dark. He had promised her she wouldn't feel alone, and yet he had abandoned her the moment it became inconvenient. That evening, when they returned to their room, Alex couldn't take it anymore. As Lyra quietly prepared her bed, he stood frozen, wrestling with his own thoughts. Finally, he took a deep breath, his voice breaking the silence. "Lyra," he said firmly. She looked up, surprised. "I don't care what people say," Alex said, his chest tight but his voice steady. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have let them get between us. If sharing the bed helps you, then I want to, no matter what anyone thinks." Her eyes widened, glowing softly in the dim light. For a moment she simply stared, her lips trembling. Then her face broke into the smallest, most fragile smile Alex had ever seen. "You mean this?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "I mean it," Alex said, stepping closer. "You're my friend. You're family here, and family doesn't let each other feel alone." Lyra's walls cracked in an instant. She blinked rapidly, tears glistening in her eyes, but this time they were not from sorrow. She nodded quickly, unable to speak, and for the first time in days her shoulders eased. That night when they lay side by side once more, the silence was no longer heavy. It was warm again, safe again. Alex felt peace settle over him, deeper than before. And as he drifted toward sleep, one thought echoed clearly in his mind. Let them talk. She matters more than their whispers. Days passed, and though the whispers never truly stopped, Alex noticed something had changed. The looks and the laughter from other students still came, but they no longer felt sharp. They no longer held power over him. Because every night when the door closed and the world outside was gone, he saw the way Lyra's eyes glowed softly in the dark. He felt the way her breathing steadied when she lay beside him. And in those quiet moments, Alex realized something important. People's opinions were small compared to the comfort they had built together. But the world wasn't ready to leave them in peace. One afternoon, Alex was called into the administration office. He sat across from a stern-looking professor with cold glasses perched on his nose. "We have received complaints," the professor began. "Students are uncomfortable with your relationship with your alien roommate. They believe it is improper." Alex's jaw tightened. "Improper? We're just roommates." The professor folded his hands. "Then why do you share a bed?" The words stung. Alex wanted to shout, to say it was none of their business. But he took a breath, forcing calm into his voice. Because she was lonely. Because she needed someone to remind her that she isn't alone on this planet. And because I care about her. That's all. The professor's face softened slightly, but his tone remained firm. "You must be careful. Not everyone understands. Some may see kindness as something else." Alex left the office with heavy thoughts. He found Lyra waiting outside, worry in her glowing eyes. She didn't ask what was said, she already knew. That night, as they lay side by side, Lyra whispered, "If this causes trouble for you, Alex, I can sleep alone again. I do not want to ruin your life here." Alex turned his head sharply toward her. "No, don't ever say that. You didn't ruin anything. You made this place bearable. Without you, I'd be just another student going through the motions. But with you, I feel like I actually matter to someone." Her breath caught. For a long moment she was silent. Then she reached out carefully, resting her glowing hand over his. "And you matter to me," she whispered. "More than I thought anyone could." Something shifted between them in that instant. It wasn't romantic, not exactly, but it was deeper than friendship. It was something unspoken, a bond built from nights of quiet trust, from tears shared and fears silenced. Weeks passed, and the rumors eventually lost their fire. People grew bored, their whispers fading as new gossip replaced the old. Alex and Lyra kept sharing the bed, not because of what others thought, but because it was their choice. One night, when the rain pattered softly against the window, Lyra spoke again. Her voice was gentle, thoughtful. "On my planet, sharing a bed means safety. It means family. It means you are never alone in the dark." Alex smiled faintly, eyes closed, listening to her voice. "Then I guess I'm part of your family now." Her hand squeezed his lightly. "You already are." The words sank deep into Alex's chest, warming a place that had long felt cold. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel like just a face in the crowd, or another student chasing grades. He felt chosen, needed.